Hi, I hope the microphone is working and picking up. Today is May 11th, Sun in Taurus, 2023, Jupiter in Aries, and I would like to start this video by introducing this book. It's called The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ. I first read it in French. For the French speakers, it's under l'Évangile du Verseau, and I'll continue the whole video in English. The name of my company is H2O. My last name is Hayat, and it was based on three best friends that from college, one of which was Olson. And I just yesterday realized that Olson Engineering in the next state, forgive me, and that's the thing with doing videos outside. In the next state, Olson Engineering specializes in compass. So I wanted to make this video since I've gone full circle in about 12 years, the last 6 from 2017 to 2023, having been here in Oregon. An Aquarius state, became the 33rd state on February 14th, 1859. Sun in Aquarius, Jupiter opposite in Leo. Now let's talk about compasses. Navigators travel using a sextant, and through that little eye you can pick where the sun is at, and there are what you call them. This obstructs the light to directly hit your eye, but you can measure the angle of the sun the same way that you could measure the angle of a planet to know its height. But one of the first compass was actually a Chinese concept, which was just a bowl, and inside you would use a piece of paper with a needle, put some water in the bowl, and the needle would just align with the magnetic field of Earth. The original compass is just basically this, okay? It's 380 degrees. At school, we just use 180 and protract it a couple of times. And this is what a navigational compass looks like. So you have this arch here to measure in degrees the arch of the angle of the sun. You have this little bit here to catch the sun so that you can use it as a sundial, and the Roman numerals will tell you what time it is, right? Now notice this symbol here. If I put it this way, it might be more visible. It is the same as this one, and if I move it to this side, it becomes the Pisces symbol. When it is this way, it is the symbol of the Amazigh people, which is where I was conceived, in northern Algeria, in a town called Waran, the two lions in Arabic. And that letter in Amazigh is the letter A, which is also visible on some stones in Denmark, used as the letter D for Denmark. We'll get to that later. So a magnetic compass has the directional north, south, and everything, and the needle aligns with just the magnetic Earth. So you have three different types of thinking here: the time that is given by the sun and the Roman 12 numerals. You have the directions northwest, southeast, given by the rose of the wind, which tells you which direction the winds are blowing from, for navigators going from India to Saudi Arabia, or from Phoenicia, which is modern day Lebanon, to Greece. That's why it's called la rose des vents in French. You call it a compass in English, but the compass, you not making the distinction between the drawing in the back and the needle itself, which is a magnetic mechanism, which is what makes it a quantic computer to begin with. I'm gonna try to not be too long on this. And then compass can also come from your camping store. They will look this way, and you can see that they also have similarly you line up the arrows, which represent a A with an N and a thous, and E for east, where the sun rises east, right? In Egypt, which starts with an E, the Sphinx is pointing towards the east, where the sun rises, and at noon, it is in Aries, which the Egyptian called Amun, and the sun is called Ra, which for them meant Amun Ra is chow time. A more simplified version would be this, and now I'm going to show you how the compass and geometers, and so the people who actually do the surveying for Oregon, Idaho, Washington, they are the pioneer who actually establish how cities are built, measured, and so on. I just recently watched a documentary on how Paris was founded by the Roman and which street they took the first measurement from as geometers. It's just fascinating stuff. So let me get back quickly with the relationship between the Gospel of Aquarius and where we're at right now. This is the orbit of Uranus, which takes 84 years to go around, and it has 13 rings, which point perpendicular to where we are, which is Earth right here, every 42 years, okay? So, for instance, if we had a pandemic that started in 2020, 42 years before that, in 1978, there was the H1N1 pandemic that took over Russia, America, everywhere, all right? So that's just one example. Now, if we're looking at 84-year period, 84 years ago was the Second World War. 84 years before that was the Civil War, and 84 years before that was the Revolutionary War. So there is really a direct relationship, simply because the rings are made out of ice, and this planet is 4 times larger than that one. So when the sun takes 2 hours and 40 minutes to hit all those rings, and then comes back in 2 hours and 32 minutes, it's a surplus of energy that intersect, and we're caught in the middle. And that's what makes everything hyper. So it's going to be a lot of condensed material in a very short time. I'm going to start with how this 360 degrees started off. A mathematician from modern-day Turkey originally came up with a theorem of Thales, that's his name, where you have the y-axis, which is vertical, and the x-axis. Now I put it color-coded so that when I write my equations, it's a lot easier not to make mistakes, okay? I can turn this very same thing into this, which gives me a more clear version of what north, south, and how you can see how an A shape is the opposite of a V shape, right? Before I get to the alphabet, I'd like to get to the very beginning of how things were conceptualized. This is a Chinese conceptualization of egocentric versus geocentric. The sun is at the center of our solar system, but at the same time, our sun takes 26,000 years to orbit the Milky Way galaxy. Within our solar system, Jupiter itself takes 12 years to orbit. I should have brought some water. I'll pause. Okay. So is it going? Yeah. All right. So as I was saying, the sun takes 12 years, the Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the sun, and similarly, with that same number, the Earth takes 12 months to go around our sun. So that's why the Greek were a geocentric civilization. They followed the Earth. They realized it takes 24 hours to rotate on itself. Now in 2021, year of the ox, Jupiter in Aquarius, my sign, a Chinese guy won the watch design in Switzerland for this watch, which actually does the very same thing, and the compass is what actually gives you the hours. So everything really connects. So in a simple explanation, you can find how an era was calculated by taking the time it takes the sun to orbit the Milky Way galaxy and dividing it by the time it takes Jupiter, aka Zeus, to orbit the sun. And that gives one era, which conveniently is the name of Zeus's wife in the Greek mythology. Between Earth and where we are as the third planet and Uranus, there's almost 3 billion miles. Man, I should have brought some water. Hot day. Okay. So there is almost 3 billion miles. All right. And the thing is, sorry about the wind and all that, but I thought being outside might be a better way to do the video. When we divide the orbit of Uranus by the orbit of the moon, 84 years by 28 days, we get 3, which is the distance of kilometers, 3 billion kilometers from Earth to there. Now, across, I'll show you the number and everything on another wheel. But first, I must explain why and how time was divided this way. This is the compass, how the Phoenician viewed it, because it's got 16 points. The Phoenician and Hebraic alphabet both have 22 letters to them, which means that it's just 6 more than the 18 that you have here. The point is, if you look at each angle, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, you can count the days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There are 4 weeks in a month. 1, 2, 3, 4. So each time I start over. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It works like that everywhere. And that is because in the beginning of how things were measured, Pythagoras invented this wheel, which is, his teacher was Thales, which at the beginning I showed you how Thales created the intercept theorem. And Pythagoras then came up with the 3.14, which he probably first got from dividing the orbit of Mercury, which is 88 days, by the orbit of the Moon, which is 28 days. And that gives you 3.14. And then you keep working at it and you get to where he got, through working the geometry of the circle. But ultimately, the simplest way to get there through astronomy is just what I just said. He observed the difference between short time and long time. So you can measure short time by the Geo-Greek centric system of the Earth rotating on itself, measuring just 24-hour period. Longer time by measuring the moon, as I just showed you, which itself takes periods of 7 days increments, 4 of them creating a month. Or longer time period by observing the Earth going around in 4 seasons and 365 days. All of that, when some scientists like to say, ooh, there's no science behind astrology. Well, you know what? Astrology is a circle, and this is the unit circle. So given that a circle is a circle and the circle properties apply everywhere, from a compass to even a roll of toilet paper, yes, absolutely. So their argument is not holding any water. They just keep appealing to ignorance. The relationship between a circle and a triangle, for example, or a square, is just the following. If I take my compass and I put it here, okay? This way is where Polaris is, the North Star that can be visible at night. And it's the only one that doesn't move. And this is what geometers use to base the first vertical positioning from as a GPS, right? And then the sun rising and the time of the day is the rest of what they use. So really, land surveying is closer to astrology than mathematics, if you think about it. So what I was saying about this triangle fitting in a circle is that in a circle, of 12 zones, whether it's our Greek zodiac zones or Chinese zodiac zone, and there are 12 of them, when you go around 25 times, you'll have gone, that's 300. 25 times 12 is 300, which means that within a triangle, you can go from here to here, that's 100, here to there is 100, here to here is 100. And you can multiply that later, which I'll show on a wheel, how you can find a Chinese position of Jupiter 300 years ago, 600 years ago, 900 years or 1200 years ago without even needing a computer, just right off the top of your head. Okay, so let's start here. The compass I wanted to use is right here. So how did things come about? I hope you can see this, because with the reflection in the sun, I don't see the screen very well. Athens came about because the coast here, if you look at the coastline, is very sharp. So their Herculaneum alphabet is very sharp, as opposed to the Roman one, which you see the curve of the coast is rounder, so it looks more like a C. So if you look where the A is relative to where N is on the compass, relative to where S is and where E is, okay? E is where, as I said, Egypt, the energy of the sun comes from, then it rises to noon, okay, where the N is at, and then it sets at in the west. So Athens is Athens because it is located there, and it starts with an A because it is north of Sparta, which is Sparta. The A is always a reference to going up, same as N. If you look in Spain, it's the same conception. You call it Spain when you're from England, because it's south of you. España when the sun is there, because east is right here. And Andalusia if you're in Africa. And the Amazigh symbol is that thing I just showed you right there, that's on my neck, which is the symbol of Pisces, where Jupiter was when my mother was born, same as when my friend from PCC. And opposite to that is Virgo, where my other best friend from PCC had Jupiter. Opposite attracts. I went ahead and did the Amazigh alphabet. I hope maybe you can see it, or I'll bring it up closer because it won't take too long. But you can see that each division, including number 2, which is B, is just the sun cut in half to express the idea of, hey, there's 2 things here, right? This is a bit heavy to hold, but oops. Now I got a real goodie for you. Are you ready for this one? How far we are in time? 18, okay. This will be really good. On the 5th, which is just 3 days ago, I was watching Rob Ward's video. Really a brilliant British guy who married a French woman. Hello, Rob. I'll send you the link when I'm done. I think you'll sleep better after that, you know, since you've been running around in circle for so long. Remember that video you did about the Sator cube? Because of the wheels that I've made, which is right behind me, I call this an Astropolis Scrabble game board. Let me get back to the Sator thing. When you put it in order, you get this: Tenet, Apéro, Opéra, Sotar, Rotas. Since you're married to a French woman, she can tell you that an apéro, and you probably know that yourself, is what we drink before lunch or before dinner. So it's just having drinks, basically. Tenet is they hold. Drinks, song, opéra is song, Sotar, they dance, Rotas, they rotate and repeat. So maybe they rotate in between them or however they do. And so once you break that code, you can break pretty much any code that you want, because it just boils down to how directions worked out, you know, and that's how you get even from the Egyptian, the word Ra for the sun, and that's where the Greek got Ares, because S is south of A. Ares, Amund, you call it whatever you want. The M is just a 90-degree E. And I applied that also to where I'm at, which is the state of Oregon. And if you really think about it, oops, with the camera, it might flip everything backward for you. I don't know. Oregon is Norge, the way they say it in Norwegian. I just added the symbol for the earth with a little cross, which is around right here. They call it Norway in English. Nogero is a name of a store here in Oregon. And then I keep the same letters but backward, Oregon. And that is because on the compass, when this is Polaris, which doesn't move, the red arrow, the magnetic north of the earth really goes to the sun this way during right now, the spring. And then when the earth will go 6 months from now in winter, that arrow will be this way, away from the sun. So that's why things end up being spelled backward from one coast to the next. So when you measure stuff out there with your compass and you're looking at the forest, realize that it's not just you with an electronic thing, you know, because the electronic thing is actually what takes you away from what is God. God is light. Let me repeat that again. God is light. So if God is light, you're going to be closer to God being outside than being indoors on a screen or anything else indoors. And that's what astrology is all about. Astrology is not some occult science with no science behind it. It's just that it's been segregated for so many years, where the Greek thought they had it all, the Chinese thought they had it all, and the Arab followed the moon 28 days. That's why they have a 28-letter alphabet. And nobody thought of, hey, you know what? The sky does not segregate all these items from one another. They actually coexist, so much so that if you can see the moon, it's because the sunlight reflects off of it. If you can see Venus, that's because the sunlight does the same thing, right? And so there is an interaction. Now, I don't want to make those videos too long, because otherwise it's going to be too much information. But ultimately, I'm going to introduce how, I'm going to make a video after this one to introduce how the beauty of how we all met and how we all really are part of a magnificent puzzle here in Oregon. Thank you very much for your time. And I look forward to the second part of this. Take it easy.